Hey folks, this is Kalani. If you've been waiting patiently and hoping for some extra buffs for your spec, this might very well be your lucky week. So many buffs are going live with the next weekly reset. 10 specs in total, I believe, will receive some much needed love, so yours will probably be on the list this time. There are also some changes to how Torghast will unlock on your alts, and the dev team is finally addressing the balance issues with the Covenant mission tables. Let's break it all down and see what's new going into the next weekly reset. Before we jump in, be sure to pop by our live stream sometime over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We go live every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and we always love chatting with you wonderful folks, so I hope to see you soon. Let's kick things off with the class and spec buffs, because let's be honest, that's why you're here. 10 specs in total have received buffs, and they're pretty much the same dealio across the board. A relatively small percentage increase to all damage done by those specific specs, so let's see who Blizzard are showing some love to this week. Frost Death Knights are once again on Blizzard's favourite list. They'll be getting a 5% damage boost across the board. Remember, when these buffs say all abilities, it's literally everything. Sometimes that means a direct 5% DPS upgrade, sometimes it can translate into a higher DPS boost. It kinda depends on the class and how all of their abilities work together. Havoc Demon Hunters are finally getting some attention too, but instead of any big changes, it's just a 3% damage increase across the board. Definitely better than nothing, but not quite what the Demon Hunter players were hoping for, I'm sure. Hunters are also going to be seeing some love, or well, two of the Hunter specs are anyway. Both Beast Mastery and Survival Hunters will receive 5% damage increases, which should help lessen the gap between them and Marksmanship at least a little bit. Frostmage will also see another buff, though it's only a 3% buff this time. Every little helps though, I guess, and it's definitely better than a nerf. Assassination Rogues made the cut too, at the 5% damage increase mark no less, so there's another spec that should hopefully get to see some more action. Enhancement Shamans are also getting the small buff treatment, 3% increased damage for all of you wonderful melee shaman players. And Destruction Warlocks have been waiting and waiting and waiting, and their prayers have not gone unanswered. The answer just might not be what you were hoping for. A 5% damage increase for Destro this time around, which is definitely, again, better than nothing, but again, it doesn't really address many of the actual issues. Both Arms and Fury Warriors are joining the buff gang too, 3% damage increases for both of those specs, which may be a little surprising. Fury got a buff recently, so I guess they need just a little bit more help, and Arms Warriors seem to be doing a bit better than Fury right now, so it's surprising that the dev team has given them the same buff. But oh well, a buff's a buff's a buff, right? So if your class or spec was on this list, you should expect to see a bit of a power boost when the next weekly reset comes around. That will be February 2nd for North American servers and February 3rd for European servers, with almost every single recent change to class power being a straightforward percentage increase. I wouldn't really expect to see any specific changes until the new patch comes around, which we might get some new info on at the end of February with BlizzConline. Until then, we'll just have to make do with these across the board kind of buffs and nerfs. Another very interesting change this week is for Torghast. I don't know about you, but whenever I decided now was a great time to log on over to an alt and try get it caught up and get some fun stuff done, one super frustrating roadblock was Torghast progression. My alts can probably stomp layer 8 already, but they have to start down at layer 1 and work their way through again. It's not quite as much work as getting through twisting corridors for the first time, but obviously it's still a lot of time you need to sink into Torghast before your alts can get their max soul ash per week in just 2 runs, like everyone else's main. Well, that's all going to change. In a recent hotfix, Torghast wings should now unlock on an account-wide basis, so any alt characters you have should be able to hop straight into the highest layer you've completed on any other character. For most players, that probably means alts being able to go straight into layer 8, which should definitely speed up the process of getting your alts all caught up with the various max level systems available in Shadowlands. If you hop into the game tomorrow and you still can't do layer 8 on your alt, even though you've completed layer 8 on a main character, you might have to run it one more time on your main for it to count. That's probably worth mentioning just in case you run into that issue whenever you want to run some Torghast on your alts. And then the last piece of big news for this week is some major rebalancing for the Covenant mission tables. Up until this point, mission tables have been insanely skewed. Night Fae players were able to do almost any mission regardless of level, while Kyrian and Venthyr players were struggling with standard missions, never mind the stronger campaign or rare missions. So Kyrian players will see some massive buffs, Venthyr players will see some massive buffs, and then there's a change to the Night Fae which ends up being a bit of a nerf. I'll go through this pretty quickly because there are a lot of changes here. Pelagos' health has been increased by 20%, Telia's spell effectiveness has been increased by 18%, and Cathikios' attack has been increased by 50%. Telethakis' health has been increased by 100% and spell effectiveness has been increased by 167%. Did this one actually do anything before? Those are some crazy buffs. Halala's health has been increased by 17%, attack has been increased by 50%, and spell effectiveness has been increased by 30%. Malako's health has been increased by 67% and spell effectiveness increased by 33%, Ispiron's attack was increased by 33%, Nemea's attack was increased by 33%, and spell effectiveness increased by 50%. Holodus' attack was increased by 33% and spell effectiveness increased by 50%, Disciple Cosmos' health was increased by 20%, Bronze attack was increased by 50%, and Apollon's health was increased by 25%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 100%. When you see the extent of some of these buffs, you start to understand why Kyrian players were struggling with some of the mission tables. When champions need certain values or traits to be doubled, or even more for them to be competitive, you know there were significant problems in this system overall. All of those changes were for the Kyrian Covenant, but the Venthyr will see similar changes too. General Draven's health was increased by 25%, Nadja the Mistblade's health was increased by 30%, and Theotar's health was increased by 25%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 20%. Stonehook's health was increased by 25%, Kalatar the Mender's health was increased by 20%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 67%, and Ioleth the Deprived health was increased by 38%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 43%. Rahel's health was increased by 40% and spell effectiveness was increased by 100%, Stonehead's health was increased by 25%, cooldown increased to 4 rounds on his ability, and spell effectiveness increased by 400%. Simone's health was increased by 38% as well. Bogdan's spell effectiveness was increased by 150%, Thela Soulsipper's health was increased by 38%, and Doug Gravewell's health was increased by 14%. Nerith Darkwing's health was increased by 38%, Lost Sybil's health was increased by 50%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 40%, and Volka's health was increased by 25%, and spell effectiveness was increased by 25% too. What a crazy list of buffs for both Kyrian and Venthyr. Some of these are absolutely bonkers, but overall, I hope this leaves both Covenants in a more comfortable place in regards to the mission table, and now you hopefully won't have to worry about whether you can actually complete some of these cool or special missions that come up with some decent rewards. It's also a fantastic time to actually make sure some of this is at least relatively balanced, right, before some new stuff comes through in 9.1. Can you imagine if both Kyrian and Venthyr were still way behind the others in terms of mission tables, but they introduced some really cool rewards in patch 9.1? That would have felt terrible if you were on the side of the Kyrian or Venthyr. So thankfully we've got all of these balance changes. Hopefully things will work out. To quickly round things out, the Night Fae nerf. The Trapper Troop's Bramble Trap has been redesigned, apparently. It's now a 1 cooldown ability that deals damage and reduces the damage of the next enemy attack. I kinda thought that's what it was anyway, but we'll have to see how this plays out in the long run to see how big of a nerf it actually is, but after these changes, Night Fae players might find it a bit harder to complete missions when compared to before. All of these mission table changes are now live, by the way. It was pushed through in a hotfix. So if you've been avoiding the mission table as a Kyrian or Venthyr player because it was an endless struggle and you just couldn't finish any missions whatsoever, go give it another poke. You might actually be able to complete some missions now. But that's it for this video. It seems like we're getting some pretty big changes with almost every week these days. The dev team must be getting ready for something big. Maybe a patch announcement during BlizzCon? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But what do you think of the broad stroke buffs to all of those specs? A simple % damage increases enough to actually address the issues, or do you think the dev team should be making more specific changes? And how do you feel about Torghast unlocking across all of your alt characters? Leave all your thoughts in the comment section below. If you want to come chat, hang out, maybe run a couple dungeons with us, you can find us over at twitch.tv/KalaniTV. We stream every Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday and Saturday, and watching the stream and come to say hi is one of the best ways you can support the channel right now. And if you ever wanted to be included in the long list of names at the end of every video, a subscription on Twitch is the easiest way to make that happen. You get a free sub to any Twitch channel if you have Amazon Prime too, so be sure to take advantage of that. A big thank you to everyone who has subscribed on Twitch already, and to our supporters over on Patreon. You can see their names floating by on screen. If you want to join these lovely guys and gals, well, now you know how. Remember to leave a like just below the video before you leave. If you want to see more, make sure to subscribe. But apart from that, thanks for watching, folks. Good luck and have fun, and as always, I will see you next time.